The world flickered back into existence, not as a gentle awakening, but as a violent surge of new sensations. Peter Parker's eyes snapped open, and the hospital room, moments ago a blur of white and sterile equipment, now glowed with an unnerving clarity. Colors were sharper, shadows deeper, and the faint hum of machinery resonated in his skull with an intensity that made his teeth ache. But it wasn't just his senses that had changed. A strange primal energy coursed through his veins, a hum beneath his skin that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. He felt stronger, different, more than human, more than spider. This wasn't a typical resurrection. Having faced the relentless, soul-devouring Morlun, Peter had died, truly died, in a brutal, irreversible way. But the universe, or perhaps the very essence of the Great Web, wasn't quite done with him. He was reborn, cocooned in a hospital bed, but the Peter Parker who emerged was not entirely the same man. Something fundamental had shifted within him, a dark echo of his spider powers, amplified and distorted into something far more ancient and predatory. His body, once a finely tuned instrument of agility and strength, now harbored a savage spider side. His usually gentle features took on a sharper edge. He discovered, almost by accident, that his canine teeth were now elongated, pointed, capable of tearing flesh. And then there were the stingers. From the undersides of his wrists, two needle-sharp, razor-edged barbs could extend, glistening and venomous. These weren't tools for restraint, they were weapons for the hunt. Coupled with an increased, almost monstrous strength that allowed him to tear through metal like paper, and a new, profound night vision that rendered the darkest alleys as clear as day, Peter had become something truly formidable. He was no longer just a hero, he was a hunter. The transition was not without its internal struggle. Imagine the man who lives by the creed of great power and great responsibility, the one who pulls his punches, who always finds another way, suddenly endowed with the primal urge to kill. This was Peter's new reality. His human conscience, the very core of his being, was constantly at war with this newly awakened predatory instinct. He felt the hunger, the aggression, the sheer untamed power bubbling beneath the surface, threatening to consume the man he had always strived to be. It was a terrifying, isolating experience. How do you reconcile being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man with the beast lurking within? The full, horrifying extent of these new abilities and their dark purpose became shockingly clear when Morlun inevitably returned. Morlun, the relentless hunter of totems, the creature who had already claimed Peter's life once, found himself facing a very different kind of prey. Their confrontation was no longer just a battle of strength and wits. It was a desperate, brutal dance between predator and an even more terrifying predator. Peter, pushed to his absolute limits, embraced the savage side. The air crackled with a raw, primal energy as he unleashed the full force of his augmented powers. In a scene that would forever be seared into the minds of those who witnessed it, Peter, driven by a primal fury and a desperate need to protect those he loved, used his new weapons without hesitation. He tore into Morlun, his increased strength allowing him to overpower the seemingly invincible foe. And then the stingers. With a sickening, visceral movement, they extended from his wrists, piercing Morlun's flesh, delivering a potent, incapacitating venom. The battle ended not with a webline or a knockout punch, but with a brutal, definitive kill. Morlun, the unkillable, fell, impaled and poisoned at the hands of a Spider-Man transformed. The horror of that moment was palpable. Mary Jane, always his anchor, his greatest supporter, stood aghast, witnessing the man she loved commit an act that transcended even the most brutal self-defense. Her face, etched with shock and fear, reflected the true terror of what Peter had become. For a moment, even Peter himself was lost in the aftermath, staring at his venom-laced stingers, at the dead body of his tormentor, and then at the horrified gaze of his wife. He had won, but at what cost? He had saved lives, but had he lost a piece of his soul in the process? Unfortunately, these dark, amplified powers were not meant to last. They were a temporary evolutionary response, a desperate measure to survive an existential threat. Like a fever breaking, the savage spider side eventually receded. The sharp teeth softened, the stingers retracted, and the overwhelming primal urges faded back into the background, leaving Peter Parker more or less as the man we knew. But the experience left an indelible mark. The other storyline provided a stark, unsettling glimpse into the more predatory, spider-like nature that could theoretically lurk beneath Peter Parker's human conscience. It explored the raw, untamed potential of his powers, untethered by his usual moral compass. It was a fascinating, albeit dark, exploration of what Spider-Man could be if he truly embraced the spider aspect of his identity, not just the human one. It reminded us that even the purest of heroes has a capacity for darkness, a primal self waiting to be unleashed, and that the greatest strength often lies not just in power, but in the restraint and humanity that defines its use. This story serves as a potent reminder of the complexities inherent in our heroes, and perhaps in ourselves. What are your thoughts on this more savage side of Spider-Man? Do you think it made him a more compelling character, or did it stray too far from the essence of who Peter Parker is? Share your perspectives in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this journey into the darker corners of the Marvel Universe, consider following for more explorations of your favorite characters.